Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Kickout, the final word in professional wrestling. I am your host, the Wizard CZ. Joining me, my for frequency's sake tag team champion partner, never wrong Nick Bull. Nick, how are you feeling today?
Feeling great, man. Wrestling's been good to us lately. The last week on the card subject to change, we had Alvin Falcone, and he was a great guest and took us behind the scenes a little bit, told us some in-depth stories about his training and his mindset for stuff, and that's cool. And there's been plenty of good wrestling to watch. I, I don't know, CZ. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think since it is the day before Halloween as this airs, we should talk about wrestlers in costumes. I'm not talking about people wearing lucha masks. I'm talking about people who actually wrestled with purposeful face paint, masks that were not normal for their character. And in honor of that, I've got a surprise. I'm going to get into character for this one. I have brought, since I am a wizard, my very own wizard hat.
Listen, you didn't tell me we're bringing costumes to the show. That's not fair.
I couldn't help it.
That's not fair.
Do you want me?
Are you channeling Oz, the former gimmick of Kevin Nash in WCW? There,
maybe a little bit. But this would need to be green if I were.
You need to get that green robe with the silver stars all over it.
Oh yes, I will. I will work on that. We'll get right on that.
Now, we want to say that if we're going to talk about this, we're talking about not just a one-off, but a wrestler that regularly wrestled in a costume, is what you're saying.
Right, and maybe even semi-regularly, because I've got at least one person in mind who wasn't always in costume, but he would bring it out for special occasions. That, of course, is the Demon, Finn Balor.
Okay, that's a good one to bring up. Yeah, we haven't seen the Demon now for quite some time. He's quote-unquote been retired, but that was quite the entrance he would have in NXT. It was quite the entrance he would have in WWE when of course, Finn Balor was his alter ego as the Demon. But yeah, go ahead. Why does the Demon stick out for you?
I think the big thing, you hit the nail on the head right away. That entrance was so unique. The fog, crawling through the fog, and just the way that just his presence as he came to the ring, and the fact that Finn only brought it out in the really big, important matches. It wasn't an all the time, I'm going to be the Demon. It was, okay, right. I really need to win this match. I've got to bring out the best I can bring out. And really, he was on quite a streak as the Demon. He was undefeated until probably the very last match that we saw the Demon in, I think.
Yeah, he didn't lose very many matches as the Demon, so it did kind of pay off for him. He would don makeup. Did he wear different? He kind of wore the same tights, did he not? The same trunks?
Very similar. Not? They were similar if they weren't the same.
Similar. Yes.
But yeah, paint was always slightly different.
It's been a couple years. Has it been a couple years now since we've seen Finn Balor as the Demon?
At least.
Okay. We haven't seen him as the Demon in Judgment Day, have we? Well, yes, we have. Was he not in his Demon gimmick at WrestleMania against Edge in the Hell in a Cell match?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember specifically off the top of my head.
Maybe he wasn't. You know the match I'm talking about where he gets gashed open from the ladder?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. WrestleMania 38, I think it was 2 years ago. But that's not a bad one. That's a good one. You definitely get the makeup on and definitely have a different approach. I don't know if my wrestler counts then because it was part of his gimmick. This wrestler was different gimmicks, but during this said gimmick, had the makeup on, did come out in costume, and I would say this counts because this was not this normal guy's gimmick. This is not really what he's known for. How about Papa Shango?
Ooh, okay. Good call. Yeah, he would always the face paint and the mystical, magical costume, the voodoo costume.
Yep.
And that dress. I agree. That's a good one.
When you mentioned the topic, that's the first one that popped into my head was Papa Shango, the skeleton face paint. Looking like a voodoo doctor, or witch doctor or voodoo guy, doing the spasming, the shaking, the smoke, everything. That's the first thing I think of when I think of, man, a wrestler that got dressed up in a costume and went out there and really nailed it. So I would, first thing that comes to my mind is Papa Shango, but I know there are several others out there. What else were you thinking?
Well, you only think of Papa Shango because he scared the crap out of you as a kid.
True. Well, hey, when you picked him up from the airport earlier this year, would you have crapped your pants had he had the skull face instead of the Godfather face?
I probably would have.
Okay,
yeah.
There we go.
We're on this kind of dark character kick with Papa Shango. Let's give a shout out to the Boogeyman.
For sure, right? I mean, the guy ate worms. The guy legit ate worms over and over again, still does. Unique. You remember his entrance. The sound of the Boogeyman, you know exactly what he looks like. Mm-hmm. You know the entrance, the worms, the face paint.
The staff and the little shimmy as he comes out.
Yes. Undeniable. It was undeniable when you mentioned the Boogeyman. The images that come to head, images that are conjured up when you come to him. Definitely a good quote unquote costume for a character, for sure.
And
for sure.
Of course, those of us who were at Bridge City Slam this last year, number 6, got to see the Boogeyman come out. Have a stare down with our good friend JT Energy and Austin Bayless. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Austin Bayless, I'm shouting you out. Book that match. Boogeyman versus JT Energy needs to happen at Bridge City 7. I'm just saying. Book it.
That'd be cool. I wouldn't lie about that. Let's see. What other wrestlers can I think of? I mean, I don't want to count The Undertaker.
What if you count when he wore the mask?
I was going to talk about when he was the Phantom of the Opera with the orbital fracture. That was mid-90s. He wore that mask. I don't want to count Kane.
Because that was part of his whole thing.
Correct.
Like I said, we're not talking about people who wore the masks permanently, like the Rey Mysterios, the Lucha, or the Japanese or the Mexican wrestlers who wore the mask.
We can talk about early days of AEW. At the very first, I think, or maybe second All In. It was in Chicago. Chris Jericho dressed up as Penta to interfere on Omega and had everything exactly the like. I know that was wearing a lucha mask and stuff, but he dressed up as Penta to get an attack on Kenny Omega. That was kind of a surprise. I don't know, listeners out there, fans of the Kickout, fans of Card Subject to Change, who are some of your favorite costume-based wrestlers that you can recall? We've talked about the Demon, of course, here with the Halloween theme. Halloween here. Hey, tomorrow night as this airs tomorrow night, so be careful out there. We love the wrestling costumes. You got if you win as a wrestler based costume this year or theme, send it our way. If you have a recommendation on a wrestler that we haven't brought up, send it our way. But yeah, the costume thing is such a unique, and the darker side is such a unique thing to wrestling. I know I'm drawing blanks here, but I mean, I'll take one. Vader had that awesome big headpiece that he wore for a short time. It was like a shoulder pad, a helmet and shoulder pads all in one, but a very big ominous looking, cool looking mask. And Vader was such a scary, badass dude anyways. When he wore that, I think he looked even extra cool. So I'd even throw that one out there.
And I mean, of course, you've got the Fiend Bray Wyatt. We can't talk about this without at least mentioning his name.
Correct.
Jeff Hardy, particularly his Willow character in TNA.
Yep.
But he always had the face paint. Let me throw one more name at you, Nick, and you tell me if it fits or if it's just part of the gimmick.
Okay.
The Repo Man. He always comes out with the black mask over his eyes.
How come the Repo Man is painted out as a heel? Like, the Repo Man's just doing his job. They made the Repo Man look like a bad guy with that mask.
Yeah.
Repo Man's just doing his job. He's just showing up repossessing a car or whatever. They called him the Repo Man, but they wanted to really call him Grand Theft Auto for how they presented him.
Absolutely. And it's a shame because, one, he's such a brilliant wrestler when he outside of the whole Repo Man gimmick. But two, like you said, he's just doing his job. Like 90% of the WWE roster, WWF at the time roster, at that time, they were just doing their job, and wrestling was the side hustle.
Yeah, like Duke the Dumpster Drosy. He was a garbage man and just showed up to wrestle to help pay the bills, right?
Right. And the Godwins, they were pig farmers. They just showed up to wrestle to pay the bills.
I got one for you. Are you ready?
I am. Hit me.
The Sultan.
Ooh. There you go.
Obviously, you and I know who the Sultan is. I think a majority of the wrestling fans out there know who the Sultan was. But with that mask that covered him like this and the baggy clothing, you didn't know that was Rikishi. You didn't know that. Or you didn't know that was Fatu. So, yeah, I'll go with the Sultan. I think the Sultan's a good one.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Good call. Very good call.
Man, I'm on top of my game. I'm on top of my game tonight. I'm ready for trick or treat. I'm ready for candy, CZ.
Bring it on. Bring on the candy. Bring on the trick or treating. This has been a lot of fun. I am a fan of this discussion. This has been a lot of fun. Not that we don't have fun on any of our other episodes.
Is there any others you can think of to throw out there?
Oh. Could we throw out Sting?
I thought about that, but I'm like, he's always had the face paint. He always had the face paint. I don't know. You could. We'll leave that up to the fans, I guess. I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either. I think it's a good call out, but what do you guys, the viewers, the listeners, think? Is Sting, should he be grouped into this category of wrestlers who were in costumes? Let us know in the comments. Give us a like, share, subscribe. Follow us on all social medias. You're watching this on Facebook. Go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and check out our archives for any episodes you may have missed.
I agree. I'm going to name one more here before I give us our tagline and get out of this episode. Doink the Clown. Does Doink?
Yes!
Doink the Clown has got to be on the list. And I guess for that case, Dink as well. But Doink for sure. The evil clown. I think he eventually turns face, but the evil clown. I mean, clown. Who associates clowns with evil? Around Halloween, everybody. So
yep.
We would have been remiss if we did not mention Doink. So I'm glad I mentioned Doink.
And I'm happy you did too, because he was at the forefront of my mind going into this episode and this discussion. He just got kind of pushed to the back with all the other great names that we've mentioned.
Well, I know the second we stop recording this episode and go on to the next thing, I'm going to have 5 or 6 names pop into my head. So
absolutely.
Fans out there, if you do it the same, fan or name pops in your head, put it in the comments. We will revisit it. We'll talk about it more later on. Like, follow, subscribe, not only the Kick Out, the Final Word in Wrestling, but also the Card Subject to Change podcast. This is kind of our midweek medium, as we call it. Get to a little more discussion based, a little more interaction with the fans. In most cases, when we have an interview on our show, like we did last week with Alan Falcone, check that out. What is coming up on the next episode of the Card Subject to Change, CZ?
Well, next episode, we are going to Saudi Arabia. We're going to give our reaction to the Crown Jewel Premium Live event. Big card for that. There are 7 matches on this card coming up this weekend. And that is a step up. They've been doing a 5-match pay-per-view for the last several months. But if you consider this one of the big shows, then I can see why they're doing 7.
Yeah, usually a big show approach when you do the Crown Jewel, the Saudi Arabia shows. Special start time, I believe it's noon our time. If you're able to watch it, that's great. If not, check us out on the Card Subject to Change next weekend as we break down everything Crown Jewel. For the Wizard CZ, I am Never Wrong Nick Bull. We have been discussing wrestlers in costume, of course, to coincide with Halloween. Be safe out there when you're trick-or-treating. Happy Halloween, everyone. And this has been The Kickout, the final word in wrestling.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.